Hi, welcome everybody to our webinar, The Case for People First Reentry, A Just Approach to Support. It's the first ever webinar, and I want to welcome everybody. And I see everybody in the chat, and they're putting down what they would be. We have an opening of please let us know your name, your pronouns, where you're joining us from, what organizations you're affiliated with, and if you want to type in there welcoming to, like, if you were an insect, which insect would you be? And maybe a little of why. And we just did it ourselves on screen and it was fun. So yeah, definitely. And so thank you all for joining us today. We have ASL interpreters, and for those who can't hear, it's in the chat, and we will keep putting it in the chat. How you could tag them, Christopher and Kimberly. So today, what we're gonna do is we're gonna talk about this memo that was sent out, and it was about person-centered reentry, and there were some values in there listed about agency, leadership, experience, basic human needs, trauma awareness, flexibility, and a restorative approach to harm. And we're going to talk about this, and our goal is to like try to change talking to people around the country that are doing this and doing this centered person approach to reentry. We have a number of the people with us. We have Stacey, Terah, Rasheed, and Marlo, who are going to introduce themselves. But we want to share our learnings. We want to try to build a coalition, and we want to support each other to change this norm. And so, and then that's what we're here for. And then I'm gonna introduce the panelists, and we're gonna hear from the panelists, and then we're gonna take questions from the audience, and then we'll close for the day. And you could put your questions in the Q&A part. It's down on the bottom of your screen, and we will monitor these questions and we'll answer some of them. Some of them will get answered, some of them won't. And yeah, and that's going to be our day. And we have about an hour and a half. And so I'm going to try to keep track of time so we don't go too much over, because I know people's lives are busy. So one of the first things we want to do is introduce all of the panels. So if we could go around and each of you introduce yourselves, because I don't want to read your bios and do all that. So if you could go through and introduce yourself and say, why are you trying to do reentry differently? And we have about 5 to 7 minutes each, and so, and say, who would like to go first, and then you can pass it off to whoever you would like to.
I can go first. Hi, everybody. My name is Rasheed Stanley Lockheart, and I am the current reentry director for the Ahimsa Collective. I mean, it's plain and simple. My lived experience has put me in this position to, be fortunate enough to be a part of this movement and this organization and what we're doing. And so for me, the reason why I want to help change, not just the narrative, but our approach to reentry is because of my lived experience. Since the age of 15, I've been incarcerated every year of my life up until I was 43 years old. So yes, I look 20, but it's been more than 25 years in prison. It's my story. But it's just plain and simple. There's an intersection that needs to be met, and it's when people are coming home, how do we help people heal from the traumas of the systems, the historical traumas, all the things that impact our people? And so for me, that's why I choose to really be involved with this coalition and this movement. And with that, I'll pass it over to Marlo.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. My name is Marlo. I'm the CEO of a nonprofit organization, 501c3. The name of it is Transitioning and Transforming Systems Impacted People. We call it TSIP for short. And what we do, basically, we do pre-release things inside the jails, inside of the prisons, the local prisons, as well as post-release things that we do for individuals coming home. I myself, like Rasheed, spent time in county jail. I went to prison. I've been in San Quentin, High Desert State Prison, and a couple of other ones. And I was able to come home and make things I put it this way, get things on the right track and get some success. However, I went through a lot of struggles, and I see some of the areas that individuals are struggling in trying to return back into society. And the first thing that comes to my mind and that we wanted to at TCIP address was the housing situation, right? And so TCIP, we created what's called the House of Grit, right? We have the House of Grit 1 and the House of Grit 2. And these homes, right, a grit stands for, as you know, is GRIT, which stands for greatness, resilience, right, innovative ideas, and tenacity. And we believe that these are the things that is going to take for people to be successful when they return home, right? Because once again, after returning home, I myself was able to accomplish many things. I'm an author. I got 3 books. I was able to, thank you. I was able to also go forth and go to school. I got 5 associate degrees, went on and got my bachelor's degree. And I know that there's so many things that we can do if we can get home and somebody give us the assistance. And as far as it relates to changing what we have now, as far as the landscape of reentry, I know that in our community, in our area, some of the transitional houses that I see and that I have experienced, I've seen that they do some things that's not a fit for everyone, right? It can't be a one-size-fit-all situation, right? And so they put everybody in a box. They bunk you in 3, 4 people in one room. They make you go to these mandatory events and so on and the like, right? And a lot of it is all about what I'm starting to see is about money, right? It's about trying to get as much money as they can to keep this multi-million-dollar business going versus really pouring into the individual. And so our program touched base with this lovely program here at Ahimsa, and it's been great work, and we just want to continuously help grow a different avenue for individuals coming home. Thank you.
Thank
Next.
you.
Oh, my bad. I need to pass it to somebody. Let me. Sorry. She's already got. Let's see. Terah, she's already off already. So I will go with you, Terah the lawyer.
Thank you, Marlo. Hi, everyone. My name is Terah Lawyer. I'm the Executive Director of CROP, which stands for Creating Restorative Opportunities and Programs. We're based out of Oakland, and we serve the entire state of California. I come to this work with lived experience as well, having been incarcerated with a life sentence at the age of 18 and spent about 15 years inside before I was released in 2017. I will say that this work is so important to me because upon my release, I was so incredibly happy in 2017 to come home. And I remember arriving into Treasure Island's reentry program, and I had no complaints whatsoever. I was still high on my freedom, excited about the possibilities of rebuilding a life, and also terrified of would my community accept me and embrace me, or would they ostracize me and keep me feeling socially expelled. And it wasn't long before sort of reality began to set in, and I started looking around and saying, oh my God, this feels just like prison. In fact, in some ways, a little bit worse. For example, I was able to visit my family and my parents more when I was in prison than when I was in the transitional housing program. And I began to sort of step back and really look at the situation objectively, removing my own personal experience out of the way and saying, like, why is this designed this way? This isn't really capturing reintegration. People are not transitioning. And I could give a multitude of reasons why that became my conclusion. But in the face of like piling up complaints, I really made the decision to be a part of the solution. And so I threw myself into this work, volunteer with a couple of other organizations, in addition to making sure we are really reimagining reentry with all of this work. And so just thank you everyone for coming. And I'm really excited to take a deep dive into this conversation. Stacey?
Well, hello, everybody. God, you all are good. You can kind of break it down real quick. So I'm going to try to follow y'all's suit. I'm Stacey Borden. I am Executive Director, Founder and Executive Director of New Beginnings Reentry Services right here in Boston, Massachusetts. One of the first women's prisons in history, built in 1877, that we're trying to disrupt and dismantle. But more so, part of the work I do is, just what it is, helping women reintegrate and now men reintegrate back into community on a different sense of what reentry. I don't even know if there ever was one in Boston. So, really creating something different, really innovative, really in a space of healing from the trauma before prison, during prison, and after, because they don't get any services. We don't get services in a prison. So just a little bit about me and why I do what I do is I spent a greater part of 30 years in and out of the prison system since 1982. I'm ancient. I have bout in and out of that horrible environment. And I think that my last sentence was 3.5 years. Came home in 2010 after really experiencing and being enlightened by my sisters, not the system. System kept continuously discarding me as they have done all of us, just sending us away. And in 2008, I had the honor of my sisters waking me up and saying, hey, if you don't stop doing what you're doing, you're going to be in here for the rest of your life. And having that awakening, like, what? We knew life, but you're in here for life? For what? We don't normally ask for what, but really? Learning all the trauma that women endure, sexual, domestic violence, even property damage, we're getting sentenced. Like the brother Marlo said, like astronomically, sentence for life, sentence for 50 years, sentence in the federal system for marijuana for the rest of their life. And I just knew that's unacceptable. Then I had to think about myself. Every time I got out of prison, it was just no resources. So I must now think about creating it. And that's what I did. 2010, I was wrapping my sentence. I had this great idea to develop a house for women because every time I came home, there was nothing. And so I got out of prison in 2010, made a promise to the sisters I left behind that I was going to come back and get them. I didn't know how, but I was going to more so create a reentry home that was going to be fundamentally different than the halfway houses that had currently existed. And so what we did, I went on an educational journey because we know education is pretty much a key to not letting us go back. So I went on an education journey of understanding mental health, trauma, and addiction, all of which I was, all of which the statistics show of women incarceration. And I came out with a master's degree, licensed in substance abuse counseling. Today have been honored with an honorary degree, a doctorate in theology and psychology, and really just saying all that to say that we can do this. We can get education. We can offer that to our sisters and now our brothers. We extended our services to community engagement so we can really give the family, the formerly incarcerated brothers and sisters, not only the 10-bed program that we have in-house. We got a house, miraculously donated to us. We developed that home with a whole bunch of therapeutic processes. One is a theater in the basement. We believe in drama, psychotherapy. So on stage, storytelling, creative writing, in theater. In our community engagement center, we do a lot of workshops. We do a lot of group therapy. We do a lot of one-on-one counseling, and we do a lot of role plays, acting out to really get to the core of the trauma before we talk about housing, before we talk about employment. You can't just come out of prison after serving 30 years and you expect to go to work and have an apartment, and you maybe never had one because most of us go to prison when we're kids, right? So just really creating that different model of what different looks like and really partnering with formerly incarcerated people who are doing some badass work in Boston. And so, that's part of the work we do. We bringing our people home. Our young offenders are coming home. The lifer, the young women who helped raise me in that prison, we brought home last year after serving a natural life sentence. So a lot of work we do, participatory defense organizing, a lot of looking at post-convictions, wrongful convictions. We press a lot of the district attorneys to create these integrity units. I mean, we do a lot of work up here. And so that's what different looks like, really just creating the basis for our people to come out of that institution and relive, reinvent themselves and live not normal, can't come from an abnormal environment to anything normal, but they can create that normal, what that looks like. And we help them do that. So that's what we do here in Boston. Thank you. I'm so glad everybody's here. And I'm definitely grateful to be a part of this team right here. So thank you.
Thank you, Stacey, Rasheed, Terah, Marlo. That was awesome. And I'm hearing some things of like from each of you about removing obstacles, building relationships, education. These things are important, and it seems like a theme that's coming through, and also about lived experience, and that's really important. And so one of the things I wanted to let me say a little bit about myself and why I got into this before we move on is to answer the same question is because I got out, I did 30 years inside, went in when 16, came out at 46, and went to a reentry home where there was 32 men in a 5-bedroom house with one operating bathroom, and we all didn't want to be there, and trying to get out of there as soon as possible in the morning and to curfew. And we were doing programs that were for this house to run and for it to get paid. And what I mean by that is I was going to drug and treatment in the morning, and I'm a drug and alcohol counselor. I didn't need treatment. I did treatment for years inside, but I needed that to go to this program in order to get my housing in order not to get violated. And then at night, I was going to a program that had me required to go and build a resume, learn how to use a computer, and to apply for jobs. I already had a job if they would just let me go to it. And I was certified by Apple, and I knew how to use computers, IBM. I didn't need what they were offering me, but I had to do that for housing. So I didn't go back to prison. So it was more for the program so they could get paid in 6 months, not so I could thrive. And what I'm hearing from you all is like, we want to do things for our people to thrive and to get ahead. And so one of the things I would like, if you could tell me more about like, what is it about your housing and how do they relate to the values that were in this memo? And like, what is it like, how I love how Stacey described what she does up in Boston. If you could describe your programs, that would be great. And whoever wants to go first. I think I'll just pass it off to, let me pass it off to Terah.
Great. So, when we thought about reentry, our founding team really wanted to re-envision what it looked like. Really thinking about sort of what's sticking out for me the most right now is the agency piece. And when we think about the reentry space as a whole, definitely housing first is so important, but I think there's additional components that need to be considered in this. And also the space itself and sort of thinking around how do you really help someone feel dignified in their housing when they're already feeling misplaced and displaced because of incarceration, and they're returning back to their natural habitat. And yet some way, somehow the broken system is still making people feel like you're still being punished. So the founding team here at CROP really wanted to re-envision that. And I was able to step in and help sort of steward that and make it a realization. So we currently have a career campus that is located in West Oakland. That once we do a few more modifications, we'll be offering 35 single rooms. This is new construction. Everyone will be living in their own bedroom. And when we think about agency and we think about prison, one thing that prison does is it takes away your sense of agency and self-efficacy. Your meals are provided for you, lights on, lights off, go to work, come back, even down to when you can have leisure time. And while our program does provide individuals with upskilling and leadership and personal leadership development, the actual environment of living is unlike anything we have seen out right now in the community. So being able to go into your own kitchen and cook your own meals, paramount. Being able to have a bathroom that you can feel privacy and dignity, paramount. Being able to go off campus and go live your life, paramount. Being able to, have leisure time and community activities paramount. All these things is something that we are deliberately being intentional about to make sure that our fellows are feeling like this is their home. Temporary as it may be, preparing them for transitioning into independent living starts on day one, right? So while there's 12 months of housing provided here, all of their bedding, all of their clothes, all of their food is provided for them. They receive $1,000 a month stipend. They're working with our coaching team for that personal leadership development, which is really just like, let's give your mind a makeover, right? So that they can really envision what their future looks like and then step into that with the resources that we provide for them. So I would say it's chock full. From there, we're going to upskill them in tech, because we know technology is the future of work. And we know that this particular population, individuals that are formerly incarcerated, are the least likely to enter into this workforce. And we want to change that for sure. Not to mention, I don't want to go into it, but the digital divide versus mass incarceration, these are numbers that are real. And how do we catch that up? So being very intentional about that is also paramount. And so more so, employer placement and also pathways to long-term housing solutions that is not just inclusive of affordable housing, which we know all low-income families are competing for that limited inventory, but situating our fellows to graduate the program to where they are earning a family sustainable wage, and they can actually consider home ownership, right? They can actually consider having their own apartment and doing their own investments and really creating generational wealth. So it's much more than just a nice comfy bed, but making sure that it's connected with wraparound services for economic mobility. That's how we keep our community safer. That's how we keep recidivism rates down. And that's what CROP is all about.
Thank you, Terah. Rasheed or Stacey or Marlo want to go next?
Yeah, I can go. So, the values in our home, we have a whole process. I'm a licensed clinician. We just believe in ways to allow our participants to learn how to express themselves. We believe in transformation, transforming the harm that may have been caused to them, as how we ended up in a cage, to really understanding what responsibility and accountability means. We don't believe in the system holding them accountable. It's a whole different conversation on that one. But we want participants to understand accountability. We don't want people to just say, okay, you cause harm and forget about harm that has been caused to you. So it's a win situation of how we counter transfer that, helping them understand the harm, heal, and know that none of our past experiences go anywhere. It's just developing all the tools to help them manage their emotional states, that they can really become effective in community and career development or whatever they want in their life. And so we help them navigate that through a world of wraparound services. Like Tara said, we do a lot of this work in-house. We do a lot of role plays. Like I said, we have the theater in the basement. We have group therapy. We target substance use disorder, if any. But mostly it's about the trauma. In order to get a woman or a man from a prison to reentry and give them the services and love and belonging that they're most likely searching for, we do that through a whole bunch of modalities. And that, could be motivational interviewing. Are they in their procrastinated state, or are they open to be contemplating moving forward with something different? And so that just means, hey, let's do group therapy right now. Let's go down and do your one-on-one sessions. That's one time a week. And let's go down in the basement to the theater section part of it and start doing some creative writing and some journal writing and some storytelling. Not everybody wants to get on stage, so you don't have to. But the hope is, can they become motivational speakers? Can they become, actresses? Can they be protagonists of their own story. When you can own that, it's so empowering. We do a lot of art therapy. We do a lot of vision boards and art therapy, paint nights. We get fun with it. We do mindful meditations. We hire a lot of different facilitators that come in and facilitate different workshops that we do. And more so, we connect with the community of educators. We have Boston College and Tufts University and Berkeley School of Art that come in and help us navigate those challenges with 9 months of, education credit as an incentive to go to college. We just pushed Clark University to give our participants free bachelor's degrees. I mean, when we talk about doing some business with our formerly incarcerated people, don't mess with us if you're not going to give us the right avenue and free stuff. We've done our time already. So, and that's what we mean by the direct services, wraparound services, partnership with people like Transformation Prison Project, which is our amazing Aman, who's a young offender, who does a lot of restorative healing. Not just healing circles, but a lot of restorative connections to the self, understanding the id. Either we go above our ego or we go below ourselves of animalistic levels. I mean, a lot of work we do. So we mean, business when we talk about some of our political leaders that get down with us and get in these circles with us. In order to serve the community, you got to be a part of the community. We have to be at the table. And if we can't be at the table, we create our own tables. That's what our community engagement center is for, to really say, listen, if we can't be down at your state house and you hear us in these type of budgets and these type of, police budgets and correctional budgets that you're putting a massive money into instead of divesting and investing, we have to create our own. And we do that at the community engagement center. And really trying to create an ecosystem from all of the organizations, not only in Boston, but around the country, to see what everybody's doing, to see how we can be more effective with our people coming out of those cells. And so, the whole idea is to create a world without prisons, reimagining communities. Part of that is connecting with people like Andrea James. Somebody mentioned that on here and said, do I know Andrea James? Yes, she is a national leader. She's part of the National Council for Incarcerated and Formerly Incarcerated Women and Girls. She's shutting jails down. We also partner with Families for Justice's Healing that does a lot of participatory defense, a lot of participatory budgeting. We get a lot of information with these correctional unions and police unions that are getting all the money, and we're saying we got to divest from that too. So a lot of work, again, and centered in being justice impacted and learning how to use our voice and advocating for ourselves and others and giving back. And I think that's the part of the whole gesture of reentry is how can we help one individual that can help the other individual that can help, and go on, and then we don't have any more prisons. Nobody goes back, nobody has to enter, and we're good. That's us. How about yesterday?
Yeah, I can go. It's kind of hard because we put the memo out, so it's like I'm going to speak on the memo that you guys have already had action and reading. But this thing that I am very adamant about in our approach to reentry, which is why it's the number one thing on our, if you go back and look at the memo on our wheel, is this agency piece, right? I mean, let's face it, agency has been taken away from us back to when we, for some of those of us who lived in oppressive housing situations before prison, right? Where we were told, this is where your group of people live, this, whether it was the projects or whatever. And then when we go to, become incarcerated, then it's magnified, right? And then we really lose our sense of agency. And so when we first started doing this work, I myself, as a person in this space doing this work, and I'd already been doing it for some time with another organization, but when we started to really address this agency piece, it was this thing of like, first starts the self-recognition, right, of how I had lost my agency, and what would that look like to be returned to me as I started to come out of prison and incarceration. And then came this thing of, we're going to do this. We're going to do this in what we know by utilizing people with a lived experience, right? And so as we started to unfold this and we started to really implement this approach to reentry, I started to see people thrive and grow in ways that really solidified our values, right? For instance, we had one young man who I had actually met myself when he was sentenced to 102 years or 106 years to life at the age of 16 years old, and got out in his 30s. And the first thing he wanted to do when he got out was just walk around. That's all he wanted to do. That's all he wanted. He just wanted to decompress and walk around and learn the neighborhood around him. Now, fast forward 2 years later, this young man now works for the Department of Justice, is doing great things. I see him in all the spaces, trying to have an impact. But it was that first sense of agency that he had. And even though it felt very, minuscule, right? Because, a lot of people that get out and we're told, you have to do this in 6 months, you have to do this within a year, you have to have this accomplished or you're not going to succeed. This young man just wanted to walk around and learn the streets. That's all he wanted to do. And then to watch him grow and thrive really just cemented this thing about agency, this agency piece. And then, our commitment to the people in the house of just trying to meet their basic needs, right? And how even that returns a sense of agency, because what we essentially do with ours is we try to eliminate the hunt, right? Because as soon as people come out of incarceration, they go right into the hunt. I have to find housing, I have to get a job, I have to feed myself, right? These are the things that, as we know, can eventually put somebody right back in prison, because if they can't feed themselves, guess what? They're going to go out, they're going to do what it takes to get it, because that's kind of, historically and culturally and all these different things, how we've kind of grown up to figure life out, right? I once read a book that had said, and I've spoken about this a million times probably to this group of people who know me, but I once read a book, it was called A History of Civilization. It talked about how man didn't even begin to develop systems like economies and all these other things, churches and this belief in God, until man was able to feed themselves. And I feel like as we come out into reentry, it's kind of the same thing, right? We fall right into the hunt. We got to figure all these things out. We're being told, and we all have to do it under somebody's guidelines or rules or regulations, whereas we believe that's not the case. We're not going to help our people heal if they have to come out and fall into the hunt. And so we essentially want to eliminate that hunt, right? We want to return people's agency back to them in a way that allows them to heal from, in our restorative approach, to heal from, the harms of the systems and even the cultural traumas and, all the things that we have that got us to that day where, we committed a crime or a harm happened and then we were incarcerated. So now on the way out, we feel like people shouldn't have to have a sense of, systemic time. I mean, we can't do anything about parole right now, right? I mean, it is what it is. There's, our people are still going to be on parole, but when it comes to just what we can give, we want to eliminate the hunt. And so that's kind of a little bit of what we do over here. So.
So yeah, Marlo, sorry, I know you got kicked out and then we got you back in and we're going through all of that, the technology problems. But we're on the question of how does the, what are the values in the memo that relate to your housing and how do they show up?
Okay, fair enough. Thank you. Sorry about that. Well, I have a few things. I would like to start back with the problem, right? The problem what we found in reentry, right? And it's a lot of them. One of them is the pre-release, right? Before a person come home, you want to try to, if you can, go and meet that person where they are and meet them people, meet the individuals, see what it is that they think they need or what they might need at that point before they come home or what they want to try to accomplish. And so that's what some of the things we do. We go into the jails, we go into the prison, not only as a TSIP, right, as a program itself, but also me as a motivational speaker, voluntarily going into the prisons and coming in contact with individuals all the time that's getting ready to come home. And then we prepare them, we meet them, we want to see what they're about, see what they're trying to do. And then we meet these people and bring them home. As these people come home, individuals, we go pick them up from their locations, right? If they're, no matter where it is, right, we're going to get them, San Quentin, Santa Rita, wherever they are, we want to go get them that ride home, because we understand that on your way home, there's a lot of things that's going to come in your way, right? A lot of obstacles, and we want to move those obstacles out of people's or individuals' way, right? Even obstacles from the system itself, right? You don't have dress outs, you don't have food, you have to pay for your own way home. These things, they're off the table with our program. We come to get you. Once the individual get home, And I'm gonna go back to the problem. Once the individual get home, the first day, 2 or 3 days, with no need to hunt, like Rasheed alluded to, right? You sit back, relax, kick your shoes off, so to speak, just so you can kind of get accustomed back to society a little bit, right? Learn where the new bus stops are, right? Learn how to work a laptop a little bit. Learn how to work cell phones, right? And we make sure we're going to provide these cell phones for the individual, by the way. Now to go back to the problem, if you go to the problem, what we have right now in a lot of these reentry homes, you have individuals who are doing this that are not formerly incarcerated, like myself and individuals here on this the screen today, right? And so they are leading from theory, I guess, so to speak, right? What things should be like, how things should work. We are coming in here from experience, right? And so at our program, TCIP, our staff all has been previously incarcerated, system impacted, and we know what it takes to help people get to the next level. And so at the house, which I said is we have 2 of them, House of Grid 1, House of Grid 2. They're both 4-bedroom homes, 2 bathrooms, fully remodeled homes, and each individual have their own room. Said they don't pay for water, they don't pay for garbage, they don't pay for rent. There's no limit on how long an individual can stay, right? I'm gonna repeat that. There's no limit. I know that some programs you have to put limits so you can move people in and out. We don't. Hey, look, you stay here as long as you need to until you get yourself up to the point where you're able to want to go out and get your own home. And if that point comes, we're going to assist you in doing so, right? We're going to help you get the stuff that you need, the rent, the down payment, and things of that nature to get your own spot. But until that time's come, you're gonna be here rent free. Some of the things that we do on the inside the home, right? Say somebody want to go into work with their hands. They want to be a carpenter. They want to be a truck driver. Things of that nature. We have connections with the Teamsters Union, right? I'm a Teamsters member here in Oakland, California. We have the local Teamsters Union is 70, which is one of the biggest union here. We're prepared to help any individual who want to go that route. Some people want to go to school. That's fine. They want to further their education and get a degree, so to speak. Okay, we have connection with our local community colleges here. We have Peralta colleges in a local area here between Oakland, Hayward, Union City. And these schools, it's like 5 of them. And we have connections to get people streamlined right into the school system where they can go if they want to achieve higher education. They don't have to worry about going and stand in line and wait to meet a counselor. We have the connections to get them right there, right away. Whatever they want to do, we want to make sure that we meet them and help them out. And like I said again, we're not in it for milestones, right? You have, I think, Richard speaking about how when he was going through programs, he had to go to a 12-step program and participate in there so he can lay his head anyone to a 12-step program, unless it's something they want to do, right? And we don't send them. We allow them to make their own decisions on going in. So I don't want to take up a lot of time. I know we short on time, so I just wanted to point out some of the things that we are accomplishing or trying to accomplish over here at TCIP. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. It was awesome. And I see there was one question in the Q&A, and see, Terah was one that wanted to address it. And the question was, what services are you offering for individuals who receive pardons and are released? Many states don't offer any reentry services for this population. How does your federal reentry system work?
Just kind of want to educate a little bit for individuals, specifically on California's Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation, because we have seen quite a bit of new law and legislation come down, which is allowing people to get immediately released on probation, or released without parole. And all of us reentry service providers, specifically those that are in housing, have a wide variety of different funding pools. If we take state dollars or county dollars or AB 109 dollars, what it ends up doing is it restricts the service provider on who they can provide housing services to. What that means is you might have this pool of funding with an eligibility criteria that does not include everyone. And this is the reason why individuals coming home from prison are 10 times more likely to become homeless, because housing is not guaranteed. Reentry housing is very limited. I remember before I was released, I applied to over 100 different housing providers all across the state, not even caring what county I landed in. I just wanted to secure a bed because my parole was mandated to go to a housing program, and it was contingent on if I could secure a bed somewhere. Over 100. I only got 2 or 3 responses back. So I want to sort of first paint that large picture. And I came home on parole. Now I have worked with a few clients, especially in my former role at Impact Justice, which is a National Innovation and Research Center, with an innovative program called the Homecoming Project, where we were able to leverage certain housing opportunities with other homeowners had extra rooms in their home. Richard might have an experience or two with that as well. And we were able to really, through the power of private philanthropy, create our own criteria and really screen our own clients and be able to meet them where they're at. More and more unrestricted dollars allows us to meet the highest need of our community members. That is inclusive of an individual without parole or probation. Coming home without parole or probation may seem like the ultimate freedom, but it disconnects you from state-funded resources, including housing, which is a big detriment to some extent. Now, what we would love to see is people come home without being on parole and still have access to these resources. And so I'm just saying all of that to say, this is why unrestricted dollars and more flexible funding and policy work around advocating for less restrictive dollars allows us to not let or allow anyone else to fall through the cracks and become homeless or recidivate and go back to prison. I'll invite any of the other panelists if they have some thoughts specifically to that question.
No, great. I think you touched on some great things, and I want to say as far as is related to funding and some of the hiccups or the holdbacks that we have over at TCIP is funding. We talked to the county about funds a lot, Alameda County, and like you stated, they want you to do things a certain way that we don't believe in, right? They want you to treat people like they're locked up still. And once again, we're not going to be able to participate in that. So what happens is we're unable to receive the funding. So to get private funding would definitely be a benefit and a help for us. Like I said, we have 2 homes right now. They're empty. This is a crying shame that, we have these 2 homes and we want to put people in them. And we just don't have the funding to sustain it if we put someone in right now. So yes, I think that is something big. And if there are funders here, I'll beg of you to really consider looking at some of our programs and seeing if you would be interested in helping us help other people. Once again, I think funding is one of the biggest things that's holding back the success of some of our programs.
Yeah, I love what you just said, Marlo and Tara. I mean, I think about, I agree, Marlo, we will keep our property vacant before we partner with these institutions. So what we've discovered here in Boston is how they keep us in the system. They take them from the prisons and funnel them to their pre-releases under the sheriff's department. Our sheriff's department had no oversight of government or anything. They got their own entity of association. Their union is huge. And so they take them from the prison, send them over there to their pre-releases that they're now calling reentry programs. And we know they're not. They're keeping them in the system. They're trying to make it like they're giving them polo shirts and khaki pants as if that's an incentive to keep them there. And we're fighting them on that. And then they try to go up in a class board of classing them under a parole, keeping them there at their sheriff's department. And that means we have 3 different big counties: Middlesex County, Worcester County, Suffolk County. We live in Suffolk County. Most of our Black and brown people are from Suffolk County. And so Who's the highest of populations? We know our Black and brown people. So that opts out our people from coming to the right spaces. We often get sent outside of our community to these places. And then when they're free, they expect them to do good, coming back to the community from which harm has been caused. Why do we know that harm is in our communities? Because they've said it that way for centuries. That we've had a lack of resources. We know all the historical generational trauma that's been going on for decades. And so by design, of course. And so we're saying, we catch you all, we see you all's budgets, we see how you all are setting it up. We see that you're not allowing our people to come out and come back to our community. So we just have to keep staying on top of those things. As far as the federal level, it's a pretty hard one. You know, we won't partner with parole or the federal probation departments. Again, we don't want them coming in our property, looking at their itinerary, seeing when the women and men are late. Then they want to cuff them up and take them back. We're like, no, they want us to do urines. We're like, that's unacceptable. Didn't we bend over and cough enough for y'all in the joint? We're not doing it here. So we're saying, listen, we're licensed, we're clinicians, we are business entrepreneurs. Somewhere or another, you got to learn to trust us. It's a hard thing to do when you're in the face of looking at Black and brown people, which you never trusted in the first place, out of fear or whatever the issue is, the whole racial discriminatory practices that they've been doing, all in the criminal justice system. And so we're aware of that. And we're saying, no, until you comply with, we develop structure, we develop policies, we have funders, we have educational services that help us with a lot of our policies and procedures. We're asking you to look at that and view it. We don't need your policies no more. We don't need you to come in and hang around our desk looking at our women and thinking that you're going to go for the okie doke like they've been doing. We're not doing that no more. So you keep over there, you let them out. We will give them the direction. We got people that we partnered with across the country in New York, like Emergent Company, who developed an app for them to call their own 911. They get funding to train their own EMTs. They got money to build their own EMT ambulance drivers. I mean, that's what's happening across the country. We got to start connecting with these organizations because, not for nothing, we're making so much noise in our communities across the country. People are coming home more than ever. These innocent projects and programs are really looking at these cases and bringing, we just had 12 wrongful conviction releases in the past year and a half. So it's happening. We just can't stop. We just keep having to say no to these systems that are creating these type of environments of harm that's bringing them back and forth into prison. And we have to be aware and stay educated to what they, every time we make a change, they're trying to create something bigger. They got their funding, but we got the voices. And that's how we've been doing it. We've been really looking at the system, looking at the creative ways they're holding us in the systems with these ankle bracelets, with these phone devices now, they're tracking. I mean, all this stuff. We got some brilliant people that are like y'all doing some creative things, just saying, we're going to hold y'all to being accountable for the harm you're causing as well.
Thank you, Stacey. And one of the things I wanted to reiterate is that that's why we're having this call, this webinar, is to try to move that needle and move those values and principles to more person-centered instead of program-centered. And I think this addresses the question that was coming up about, do we take people from federal or state? And we take people regardless of where they're coming from in our houses. If they've been formerly incarcerated, we're here to remove obstacles for them. And that's our goal. It's like, let's remove obstacles for you. We've had the privilege of getting out before you, and we're out here in this world, and let's remove some of those obstacles for you, regardless if you come out of the state, the federal, and our probation, or county, or I don't care if it's juvenile hall. Like, let's figure this out together. You've been through the similar trauma that we've been through going in there, and the the obstacle with state and federal funding is like Stacey and Terah and Marlo was saying, so is that they require those people to get out of their system, and we will only fund them if they get out of our system into a system that is another carceral system that is approved by us. And so that's where we're trying to change the needle with this coalition and other people getting together and be like, let's change the values in the way we do this to where it doesn't matter where that person is coming out of or who is funding. And we've had to do that through private funding because that's the only unrestricted funding that allows us to do it, and that they don't allow it. And so that's one of the things is like our program will accept, and I know others will here, and it all depends on where the funding is coming from. And so that's one of the reasons why it's so hard to work with state and government agencies is because of that. And I know there's a few more questions here. The first one was by, we have about it's 12:23. We have a little bit more time. There's one question. It's, I know a lot of, it says, I know a lot of small nonprofits that think about opening their own transitional housing. Would this be a viable service to assist in the big picture? Does anybody want to answer that?
Yeah, I can go. I mean, it's I think you actually just answered it right before you even asked the question, right? Like, this is why we're here. This is why we're doing this, right? To build this coalition of people who are like-minded and really want to have an impact on our community. Because I mean, change isn't going to happen overnight. Terah's in Sacramento right now fighting for some stuff to happen, right? We know that it takes effort, it takes community, it takes time, and so we've been doing this for about 2 years now, and already, the coalition is starting to build, right? People, I mean, in Boston and other parts of the country who are saying, hey, like, we absolutely think this is the way to go, and this is how our people should be treated. So yes, absolutely, I think it's viable for the future. It is our community taking charge, right? And in California, that's actually what we're finding in it, and having met Stacey for the first time here, apparently across the country, where people with our lived experience are taking the helm. And it hasn't happened overnight. It started with incarceration when people first were like, hey, we're not getting out of prison. We need to change some laws. We're not going to sit back and wait for people to change laws. So they started studying, they started writing stuff up. It's the same thing here, right? If you're looking at this and you have the ability, like the brother Marlo here, who has 2 houses and he's ready to go, like, this is what it takes. This is absolutely what it takes. And we're going to evolve, we're going to grow, and this thing's it's going to really catch. And then we're going to start to see, because what we've saw already in the people who have come to our houses already, I can tell you, I mean, yes, the measurement is quality of life, right? So everybody who has gotten out of our houses or who is currently in our house is thriving. And it's all because of their agency and their ability to live as a person who doesn't have the pressures and the struggles that usually come along with post-incarceration, right? We can't eliminate all of it, but what we can do is say that we're here to help you try to figure it out. And so the more that we create these environments and we start to build this coalition, it will absolutely, it'll start to really diminish the bigger picture.
So I see another question maybe somebody can take is, Pablo asked, what mental health services do you offer? I'm also interested in family reunification and assistance to families of the incarcerated. They do time with us too. Anybody want to take that one? And I can put it in the chat.
Yeah, I could kind of touch on that. I think that, when we really understand mental illness is across the board with trauma, with anxiety disorders, it's, could go as far as schizophrenia, that's a whole different bigger picture. The hope is really get to the trauma and bring outsource. We have a whole bunch of health centers in our community that offer mental health services, but more so, we're starting to really see we have 2, a male and female, formerly incarcerated individuals who have taken and passed their license in mental health counseling, which is cool, beautiful. We need to send our people to them for psych services. A lot of us, myself, I'm mental health background. My master's is in mental health, but I only wanted to target or focus on the trauma part of it, because if we get into the severe mental illness, it takes a lot of time with one individual to really tap into some of those disorders. And so we send that out. The other part of it is really focusing on, you know, how do we get someone whole, holistic values? You know, not a lot of people believe in Reiki or mindful meditation. A lot of us are, you know, have so much anxiety, we can't even close our eyes and think about how to meditate. And some people have severe trauma that if they try to meditate, then those triggers and targeted memory comes up. So we do a lot of work around those type of areas of what happens in the brain. I think that the part of the reality of the work is, how do we look at one individual and see how vulnerable they can be? We can do a biopsychosocial and ask them their family history, their individual history, their life. You know, how did you do in school? You can kind of get an idea from someone just having a different conversation. I forgot the rest of the question because I was just kind of stuck on the mental health part of it, because that is so big. I don't ever want to minimize someone's mental illness, because it's all mental illness. If we ended up in the cage, if you weren't wrongfully convicted, and most of we know some of our wrongful conviction came from, they were in the streets hustling and doing whatever they did. Not often. I mean, I've met one person, Anthony Hinton, down in Alabama, that Brian Stevenson got free. They took him out of his house. So not all of us come from the street. I'm not clearly saying that all of us that end up in the cage are from the street or from trauma or any of it, but the majority of us are. And I suggested that is just a whole mental illness in itself. And if someone is severer than others, some of us have different traumas. It's circumstantial and individualized. And I think that the whole key is having a plan, developing a plan for the individual. What does that look like? Because we're all different and everybody has the different needs. And how do we focus on that? If we just kind of can step back for a minute, even those who hadn't been in the penitentiary, sit back for a minute and think, what can help me advance myself in my life? Would having someone, a therapist, give you some direction to help you with some of these stress factors? Any resources that's in our community to help you with finances? I mean, we do that too. We have a young teacher that comes in and teaches financial literacy. But we don't want to just learn how to open up a checking account or a budget. We want to learn how to invest our monies when we make it, even if we make low dollars. We want to understand how we can get to be sustainable, move out of our mental health illnesses, incorporate some of the resources that we are trying to provide and help an individual, whether they're escalated up here from bipolar disorder, manic depression, even if they have some sort of schizophrenia. Someone should be able to recognize something's wrong before we just discard someone and send them back. That is for everybody. And everybody to be open to just have a conversation with somebody, so a good therapist can say, after 90 days, we need to do a further evaluation on you. You might have a chemical imbalance. You might have trauma that's so deep that is causing these behaviors or these episodic adventures that you go on. I mean, it's a whole bunch of stuff. And that's why we say incorporate art. Art is healing. Harm reduction is healing. And harm reduction just means how many ways to stop someone from causing harm to themselves and others. A lot of part of what we can develop in the public safety way, like Tara started out to say, we can create our own public safety. Make sure that the community is safe by taking our individuals and giving them the love and nurturing that they need and deserve. That's a whole public safety in itself. And we don't even need a police department to come out and recognize that and tell us nothing. That's another conversation that I like. How does policing in America look like in your state, right? So I hope I answered some of that. I think I veered off somewhere because I can go. This is my stuff. This is the conversations I like.
No worries, Stacey. Yeah, we have some more questions in here. I was wondering, and I loved how you were answering about mental health, but how also too, I wanted to say before we go to the next question is like, one of the things that's been taught out of us is healing and healing in our own ways and what that looks like culturally is like. And so not all of us go see a therapist. Some of us do art. Some of us go to a sweat lodge and see our elders and talk to them. Some of us are from different countries, different parts of the world where healing looks very different than the model that's here or the model that's been taught to us inside the system, and how actually mental health is weaponized inside the system against us. So we may have some trauma around there that we have to work out because of when we're inside, that somebody did a psych report that said I couldn't get out, I was a threat to society. And so like really like pulling apart all those things, and who could understand that better than somebody that's actually been through it with us, that's been inside and has the same lived experience that we can talk to. What you were saying earlier is like we have therapists or we have people that you could talk to. And it's like one of the things we talk about around healing is remember those days where we just used to sit around the table and be like, how you doing? With our families, with our loved ones. And that's how we did healing. In our tribe, if you had a problem with addiction or with whatever it was, we didn't send you to another tribe to go get healed. We figured it out within this tribe. And so like there's different ways for different folks, and just like really keeping that in mind, like it's not a one size fits all model. And for me, sometimes it's art, sometimes it's a sweat lodge, sometimes it's talking, depends on what's going on. And then who I talk to really matters. And so that, and then we wanted to get to a couple other questions here. I seen Anthony asked, how do you get states to stop attaching their own rules and regulations to the much needed funding for reentry?
I'm happy to answer. That's why I'm here, right? When we talk about funding sources, I don't think, our elected officials and our governing bodies are fully realizing how the restrictions and limitations they put and attach to funding is trickling down and harming the individuals we directly serve. I can tell you about 10 to 15 individuals, and I've housed over 100, who have all been displaced. They were in reentry housing, a source of funding for that provider immediately changed, and they had to immediately clear those beds, immediately. And people were sleeping in their cars and couch surfing. So really giving them real stories and statistics about how this is affecting our community is key. There's a lot of legislative work around this, a lot of policy change, but I think the most important thing isn't to go into these offices with your elected officials and governing bodies and shame them into making them see or feel like they're doing something wrong, but to invite them into a solution that we can absolutely recommend and put together metrics and measurable outcomes that we know we can achieve if we got the support. So this is a community effort. Everyone, all hands on decks need to be involved. And it takes sharing the real stories of not only just like the good stories of how great is this program, but the real heartbreaking ones, where if this person had an opportunity, they wouldn't have gone back to prison. They wouldn't have had to abandon their family. They wouldn't have had to commit another crime. They would have been able to have personal responsibility, taking ownership into their past crimes, healing, and then being able to give that back. But if we have any break in delivering the services and the resources that are much needed, we're not being supportive. We're actually causing more harm. And expecting someone to step up to a higher calling and be a great citizen and pay your taxes and do all these wonderful things that we're sort of required to do as adults in society. And yet we're not really being fair. We're not really thinking clearly on the results that we're seeing currently in our communities. So that's part of our strategy here, is not just to massage and influence and finesse changes in legislation for our own organization, but for the community at large, right? It's a collective effort. We're all so interconnected. And it is my main mission right now to get them to see just how good they want their neighbor to be, right? Anyone coming out of prison can be your neighbor. What kind of neighbor do you want?
Awesome. I see one question here that we haven't hit that I really want to get to, and it's by Christina. And it says the programming/resources I'm hearing sound great, but I'm wondering if there are any restrictions for people charged with sex crimes. Are certain crimes barring people from receiving services, housing especially? Does anybody want to take that one?
Yeah, I would speak on that a little bit. Yes, there are laws that bars and that block people that's been convicted of sex crimes from going in certain areas and living in certain areas, even visiting their children's school, right? We know that the fact of the matter is you have individuals that I've come in contact with that have been arrested and convicted of a sex crime for peeing outside after a concert. And so now they're on this list, right, Megan Law, and they cannot live by schools if they're on probation, or if you're on parole, you can't live by schools or parks and things of that nature. So what happens is if you have a program, especially if it's state funded, you can't have individuals that are sex offenders if the house is located by a school. And here in our area where I'm at, Oakland, you have a school or a daycare or a park pretty much on almost every corner. And so what you find yourself is you have individuals pretty much pushed out of a certain area or even a certain county, so to speak, almost. But there are some programs that are in our area that do allow up to 2 or three sexual people that's convicted of sexual crimes to partake in a program, but not everywhere. So I guess to answer your question, yes, there are laws that are blocking people from coming home and being, again, a place to lay their head, a safe place. And some of these people are sleeping in tents. They're sleeping on the side of the road in cars just because they have nowhere to go. And so they're registering with their local county offices as being homeless. And then these individuals are all over the place. And so I would argue that if we were able to get more housing for people who are registered as sex offenders, at least they will be able to even know what these individuals are, right? And not that they're just not roaming the street, living in cars all over the place. But hopefully that answers your question a little bit.
So let me piggyback off of Marlo. This is a really good question, and it has come up about who we accept. I like what you said at the beginning too, Marlo, about not having a time frame. Like our program is up to 18 months and beyond. But we also don't look at what the transgressions. We don't use certain language. Just let me say that. We don't use the word crimes. That's something that the system created. We use transgressions. We don't look at what you've done. We're probably the only program in Massachusetts that will allow for someone who had a transgression of murder, a transgression of, arson, transgression of, sex offense. Women are sex offenders too. And we're saying they all need help. There's a problem with that. They're going to come home. Like Tara said, they're going to be our neighbor one day. We provide those services. That's why we don't focus on housing and job first. We don't know what people have done. We don't know what's in their head, what they can do. And so our whole focus is holistic here. We don't let the state tell us they can't come in. Then I don't want your grant. Simple as that. If you really want to be about business and you want to give us money, often they just try to throw money at us so they can say, oh, we gave that Black organization some funding. And we're like, no, we don't want to take your restricted funds. We don't take restricted funds. So if you want to restrict them and change the language on it, we'll accept it. Because all of our people need help. Now, again, that goes back to mental illness. Our policies that I created is saying, if we look at someone that has a transgression of arsonist, for example, we have a young woman who had substances, who grew up without her parents because they were substance use abusers. And she's sitting in her girlfriend's apartment, her best friend, and her best friend said, I can't take you no more. That's after they just finished sniffing dope, smoking crack, drinking, and took a Klonopin. Now they're mind altered. That's what substances do, right? So it alters your mind. Her friend said, listen, I want you out of here. I'm going to work. I'm up all night messing with you. I don't want to do this no more. I don't want you here when you get back. She left the house. So this young girl says, well, if I can't be here, then you can't either. So she lit the curtain on fire. Well, she didn't think about the second or third floor. The third floor woman couldn't get out and died. She was charged not only with murder, but arsonist as well. So after looking at and fighting with her for her case, she was able to get her case overturned from first degree to second degree, went up for parole, took accountability. Parole said, well, we ain't letting you out. You're an arsonist. By the time we finished with the parole board, she's seeing the parole again on the 12th, and she's got a high likelihood of coming out because you can't classify her as that. She didn't try to kill nobody. If she was trying, she would have let the girl stay in the house, and she definitely would have went outside and burnt the joint down. When you're in a mind-altering substance, you can't look at them as what you want to label them as. We're saying she's not an arsonist. Now, if there's somebody with arson charges and that's all it is, then we got a problem. Our policies might not be able to take it, but that's through our liability. That's not through the state. That's how we set it up, because we don't want to keep being blocked by their system. We're trying to disrupt how they view us. So that's part of the work that we do, and that's probably why we only have so many women in the house, because they don't really want to let them out anyway. So we're changing to kind of look at the model and say, well, let's start talking about diversions. Maybe we should be in the courts and say, maybe these young women and men shouldn't be going to jail, and these are the reasons why. And so that's how we're looking at it, to try to get the judges and the representatives who make the laws change how they view people. Stop creating these type of barriers that we can't function. You just keep discarding us and throwing us under the jail. And it's hard too, Marlo, because you have some of these advocates who are saying, okay, if they don't go to prison, send them in a mental health institute. And then the advocates are saying, well, mental health institutes are harmful too. And we're like, well, what do? Well, we create healing spaces that are not institutionalized, that create these type of models that continue to be harmful, and it has no solutions to them but more harm, and you come out the same as you went in, if not worse. I get real passionate with this stuff, y'all, because if you was like me and you're, like you said, you lived in these environments, we got to keep it like it is. We got to keep it real. We need help. And they're not going to save us. Who's they? The system. They were brilliant people who created the system for Black and brown people to live in cages. We're not animals, and we're tired of it. It's done. We're dismantling every time you come, every time you build something again, we're going to dismantle it again.
Thank you, Stacey. There's another question that came up that's a good one. I think would be great to answer. And this is one that it says, I'm wondering, what are some of the roadblocks organizations that choose a more person-centric approach face from the system? And how do you combat being co-opted? I think Stacey was talking to this a little bit of some of the things that we've faced actually from the system is like, if we don't follow their rules, then they won't let nobody come to our house. And they'll say, oh, I got this person under parole, so I'm not going to let them come to your house. I'm going to send them to a more of a carceral system setting, a carceral reentry setting. And this is to try to gain control of our houses and to try to make us forced and to go into their ways and their carceral setting rules. And it's like a forceful way for them to do that. And so those are the roadblocks that we would face, is the system is like, oh, now nobody's going to come to your home. I'm not going to let nobody on parole go their probation or wherever they're coming from. I'm not going to let them go to your house now. And so that's the strong arm tactic they can have. And how do we combat this co-option of saying this person-centered approach is that we don't want to, like, our organization isn't scaling. We don't want to scale. We don't want to create Ahimsa homes all over the country. What we want to do is create a system of values and principles that we can share across the country so that if you co-opt that, great. Awesome. You take it and you get that out there and you have those values and those principles within your housing. If you're affording that to people and you're treating them like humans again, then great. If the system goes that way and they're funding that and they're creating those homes, that would be awesome. Co-opt that all day, please. And so, yeah, anybody else want to answer this?
Just compliment that and say, it's about time that we create a new floor of standards of reentry, and sort of couple that with best practices in this space, not just best practices of hiring and retaining formerly incarcerated, employees, but what are the best practices and the best standards to incorporate into any reentry housing, right? So really looking at this floor, the ceiling is as high as it can go, but making sure there's a bare minimum of what needs to be required. And I think you've captured that in this memo so eloquently, whether it's leadership by formerly incarcerated individuals that have lived experience, whether we're talking about the agency piece of like getting people to really take ownership of their life and learn how to live independently and take hold of their life. I mean, down even to like, the commitment to meeting basic human needs. This is so important. We see oftentimes this is neglected, this is disregarded. And what does that do? It makes an individual vulnerable to rethinking criminally, to recidivating, to also hurting themselves or others. When it comes down to even trauma-informed care principles, everyone at our organization should be trained in this way, because we can't think about harm reduction. We can't think about actually teaching someone how to lead a life without crime if we're still approaching them with punitive measures. It's not effective. You can have all the policies and restrictions and requirements and rules, but if the manner in which you are sort of trying to enforce or lead someone to comply is not done with trauma-informed care principles in place, you're not having an overall restorative approach to harm at all, right? And this is where we talk about those flexible arrangements. Flexible arrangements is really key to meeting someone where they're at and recognizing that the only thing in common formerly incarcerated people have in common is that they're formerly incarcerated. My circumstances are different from yours, from Marlo's, from Stacey's, to Rasheed, et cetera, and everyone on this call. But one thing we know for sure is because our situations are so unique, we oftentimes have to go out into the community and get our needs met. So I would just say, how do we create a new standard? We need to create the best practices, and we do that through innovative solutions in reentry housing, holistic reentry models. And I'm just so proud of the work that we have done up until this point thus far. And I know we're trying to be sensitive on time because I know that we're getting ready to close up here, but I'm just so incredibly grateful to everyone who attended and allowed us to share our personal experience, our professional work, and how we intend to change the world one person at a time.
I think, Richard, if I may.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, Marlo. I just want to say this. I think one of the things that is important is we don't partner with the system. We don't partner with DOC. We don't partner with the Executive Office of Public Safety, of which we have here, who's over the DOC. We don't partner with these entities. But what I personally do is create models of allies. I'm going right to the source. I don't got time to be talking to your secretary. I want to see the boss. That means invite them in. You've invited me into your big house. I lived in it. I'm going to invite you into our house. And so that's one of the things that we've worked on with the commissioner who runs the DOC. She's a woman, and really giving her the business, because how often do you even go into your prison? Do you do any site business? Like, what does it look like? But can you even look at a model of doing step downs, some of the lifers that come into our program? How, if you look at statistics, how many people that have did 30, 40, 50 years have really came out and caused any more harm because we know brain development? These are the conversations that we have. We have these conversations and have created ally spaces with the Executive Office of Public Safety. letting them know you are holding people in prisons for decades and they come out and we can't get them an identification when they weren't a John Doe or a Jane Doe in your prison. And so they've created models. Look at different models. Look at New York. Look at Oakland, California, two progressive states who are doing things different, who are saying, hey, let's create some health insurance for people coming out of prison. Let's look at if they've been in the system with a mass ID or, a driver's license, let's get them that. Matter of fact, let's look at hiring. We created a model here, credible messengers. The Executive Office of Public Safety is hiring formerly incarcerated people on a state level and giving them state benefits as credible messengers. Why would they be credible? They're the ones who lived in a prison. They know how to get somebody out and give them navigating back through the community. So those are the conversations we have with the system. We definitely don't want to opt them out. We want to dismantle what they look like. And that's one way of dismantling the system, is really having these type of conversations with people. And more so, look at what the professors, I don't mean if there's a professor out there, I don't mean no harm or disrespect by saying that you all are researchers, and I'm grateful for the research you do because it shows statistically how many people don't cause harm coming out after doing that many years. But more so, we're the subject matter experts. We lived in there, we came out of there, we know what's not here, we know what we don't want, so we got to create what we do want. And that's just having, again, takes a conversation.
If I may, I'll make it real quick. You had asked about blocks from the county or the system itself. And I know Richard had talked about some of the blocks, but I want to also point out another block that I that I noticed. And it's that, they have these lists. Like, I'm looking at my phone right now. You guys probably couldn't even see this, but this comes directly right now from the county of Alameda, right? And they showing us about different programs that they have. It's a lot. Programs in our county that people that are previously incarcerated or system impacted can go to and get the help they need. But our county knows well about the Richard, the Ahimsa collective. They know about this program, but they're not listed. So to me, that's another block, right? Maybe it's not intentional, right? But I believe that if we're not intentional about giving people all the avenues they can go to, then we causing them harm. So this is another avenue of blocking good work that can be done. Thank you.
Yeah, and if I can just real quick too, just to speak from our experience of being in this space, we haven't really met with any real blocks except for ideology, right? And it's been older school, generational correctional officers or parole officers versus kind of the younger, newer ones. Because for the most part, a parole officer comes to our house who we have great relationships with, and they're like, hey, man, listen, if you guys want them, you're more than welcome, right? Like they promote us and they tell people about us. Whereas the older ones, we've actually had them sit there and try to tell us, oh, my guy can't be here because you guys aren't this and that. And then we had our lawyers go look at it and they're like, that's actually not even language that's anywhere in the law, in the DOM or anything. So he's just making it up, but it's just his old ways of thinking and his beliefs that, he attempted to say that, our way and our approach isn't, appropriate to him because it wasn't systemic enough for him. So we've been pretty fortunate and blessed that we haven't had many blocks, but I think that's also because there was a lot of research that went into, what can we do, what can't we do as an organization before we even started. So.
Thank you all. So we got about 5 minutes left. So I was just wondering if and I know there's many more questions that people asked that we didn't get to. I'm sorry we didn't get to them. And Terah had to leave. She had another appointment right now. And I know other people have hard deadlines at 1 o'clock. So if you would love to, and we would try to we'll reach out to people with the emails. We'll send out the memo again. And also, I will send your email addresses to everybody on this call that was on a panel, and then that way you can follow up with them. And then our panelists, thank you so much for coming. Thank you, Marlo, Rasheed, Stacey, and if you want to say any closing remarks, let's check out real quick. And so we'll leave the last 4 minutes for you all to check out, say anything that you wanted to say that you weren't able to say, and just how you're feeling.
If I can go, I often say this when I'm doing other advocacy work and stuff like that, right? Like we are just a few of millions of people just like us, right? Who just need the opportunity, but more so deserve the chance to come home in a way that's really putting them first and helping our people heal, right? And so I hope that the takeaway for a lot of people who are here on this meeting and who read this memo is just to recognize that, these faces are only a few of millions, right? And they need and deserve the same love and compassion that we're trying to give. And I just thank everybody for being here.
Yeah, this was great. Like, I'm just so grateful to really just be in the space with Marlo, Rasheed, and Tara. Thank you, Richard. It was really an honor for you to come all the way to Boston just to see our model and to learn about your model. Who thought of this stuff? I mean, all the years I did in prison, you dream, you have the right intentions of coming out. When you get out, there was just no resources. And thank God times are changing. I could see it. I may not live to not see prisons, but I can see it. I almost feel like that Martin Luther King's term about it, the dream, like it's there. And if we just keep showing up and we keep giving the love and support to our people, again, that coming out, creating these spaces, we can really reimagine what the community should be, all of our communities. Got to give a shout out to Marlo with the progression of Oakland. We do a lot of, Andrea James has brought in a lot of training from Oakland, this most progressive town in our country. And, we have a woman out there who is a badass architect. I got to bring her into the space, Deanna Van Buren, who is really creating spaces out there that are healing and restorative. So I just had to bring her into space. Thank you all for having me, and it's been an honor. Thank you.
I just want to thank you, Richard, for bringing this together, letting us, speak to those that was willing to hear. I thank everyone for showing up today and taking the time out to hear what it is that we are doing and that we are trying to spread around the country. We ask that you guys just continuously support and help, move this type of movement around, because it's definitely necessary and needed. And once again, if there's funders out there, please be willing to open your pockets up a little bit to help some of these organizations, even like myself that, have, like I said, again, 2 homes with people ready to go. We just need to get some people to get in there, and we have the people. We're not only able to sustain it without the funding. So please think about supporting other organizations like the one I'm talking about, TCEP. And once again, thank you guys for sitting on the panel with me. I appreciate
it. Thank you all. It's 1 o'clock, and thank you all for coming, and thank you for sharing your experiences and your words and your learnings. Thank you so much, and you all have a great day, and we'll do this again soon.